Welcome to this explainer for the Global Issues Daily. Today, we're diving into a modern military anomaly that literally defies logic. I mean, picture this. The year is 2023, and the world's most advanced fighter jet simply vanishes from the sky, entirely on its own. Imagine a machine packed with the planet's all sophisticated, heavily classified technology just completely dropping off the grid, while its pilot safely walks away. We're unpacking an event today that feels straight out of a geopolitical thriller, but it actually unfolded as a very real, incredibly perplexing crisis for the United States military. It's one of those stories that really forces us to pause and question the limits of modern engineering. What are the unforeseen consequences of creating machines designed to be perfectly invisible?
To really wrap our heads around the gravity of this event, we have to talk about the staggering price tag attached to the aircraft we're discussing. $100 million. That's the estimated cost of just a single American F-35 fighter jet. So we're not just talking about an aircraft in the traditional sense here. This thing is basically a flying supercomputer. It represents decades of astronomical investment in cutting-edge military hardware and research. It's packed with millions of lines of code, hypersensitive sensors, and materials engineered down to the molecular level. So when a sovereign asset of this immense value simply goes missing within domestic borders, well, it's far more than a minor operational glitch. It instantly becomes a massive, high-stakes mystery that grabs the attention of military strategists, allied nations, and honestly, the whole world.
Section 1. The $100 Million Ghost, the pinnacle of U.S. aviation. Now, to grasp how a crisis like this actually unfolds, we first need to understand the fundamental purpose of the F-35. This jet is the absolute cutting edge of the U.S. Air Force, and it was engineered from the ground up specifically to be completely untraceable on radar. Its entire reason for existing is to act as a ghost in the sky, right? It's supposed to penetrate heavily fortified enemy airspace without triggering a single alarm. But as we'll see, this specific capability introduces a profound and kind of unsettling paradox. How exactly does a jet completely vanish while its pilot returns home safely? Normally, when we hear international news about a military plane disappearing from tracking systems, it's a tragic event tied directly to the loss of the human crew. But in this bizarre scenario, the human element was entirely separated from the machine. And that left a hyper-lethal piece of autonomous hardware just roaming the atmosphere completely unchecked. Section 2. South Carolina. The ejection. The 2023 incident. So, the narrative begins over the American state of South Carolina during what was supposed to be just a routine training operation. Mid-flight, an undisclosed problem suddenly developed inside the F-35. And while the granular details of that mechanical failure are still heavily classified, we do know the situation deteriorated incredibly fast. Operating at high velocities, where literally a fraction of a second is the difference between life and death, the pilot had to evaluate these cascading failures and make a critical decision. They decided to eject mid-flight. Enduring some punishing G-forces, the pilot was blasted right out of the cockpit, deployed a parachute, and descended safely to the earth. Hours later, authorities confirmed the pilot had made it safely to a local military base. So, the human crisis? That was resolved quickly and decisively. The pilot survived. But the mechanical crisis, the story of this $100 million machine left completely unattended in the air, well, that was just getting started. Section 3. The autopilot anomaly. The unmanned flight. You see, modern fighter jets like the F-35 are inherently aerodynamically unstable. They aren't flown purely by human hands yanking on mechanical cables anymore. They use what's called fly-by-wire systems. The pilot inputs a command, and onboard computers make thousands of micro-adjustments every single second just to keep the jet from falling out of the sky. And here is the absolutely crucial detail. During this specific crisis, the jet's autopilot mode was left engaged. When the ejection sequence triggered and the explosive canopy detached to fire the pilot to safety, the flight computers just kept executing their last known parameters. Because the system was still active at the exact moment of ejection, the entirely empty aircraft stabilized itself. Devoid of human control, it instantly morphed from a manned fighter jet into a highly advanced, heavily armed drone, flawlessly continuing its trajectory through the skies over the American South. Section 4. The Stealth Paradox. Too invisible to find. This brings us to a really fascinating double-edged sword of modern military engineering. It's the exact intersection where extreme automation meets terrifyingly efficient stealth technology. We're looking at a supreme contradiction here. On one hand, you have the autopilot systems, which represent the absolute peak of aviation artificial intelligence. This software was smart enough to keep a destabilized, unpiloted, incredibly expensive jet continuously airborne and moving. But on the other hand, you have the aircraft's stealth design. This is an architectural masterpiece of radar-absorbent materials and classified geometry. And this design actively and successfully made the rogue jet completely invisible to domestic radar. It's just a staggering reality when you think about it. You have an aircraft intelligent enough to flawlessly fly itself, yet so heavily cloaked that its own government, alongside its premier intelligence agencies, couldn't even locate it within their own sovereign airspace. Looking at this whole situation, it really begs a fundamental and highly relatable question. Why on earth was there no GPS tracker on board? I mean, we live in an era where you can track a commercial rideshare vehicle down to the exact city block, right? Or find a lost smartphone anywhere in the world in seconds. So how does a $100 million military asset simply fly off the map? It seems completely illogical that a piece of hardware representing the very pinnacle of 21st century defense spending wouldn't have a simple, persistent location beacon pinging at all times. It's definitely the most natural question for the public to ask when the world's premier superpower admits, hey, we lost a jet. But, in the context of high-stakes military combat, logic operates under an entirely different set of rules. The answer actually lies in the uncompromising definition of true stealth. Stealth isn't just about the angular shape of the fuselage or slapping some matte black paint on the wings. It's a comprehensive design philosophy that requires absolute operational silence. To be truly invisible to sophisticated enemy anti-aircraft systems, the jet intentionally omits all traceable signals. It absolutely cannot emit persistent radio frequencies, commercial GPS pings, or standard transponder data. Why? Because those signals would act like a glowing neon beacon to enemy missiles. Therefore, when the human pilot is no longer in the seat to actively manage secure communications with base command, the machine defaults to its primary objective. It goes completely silent. It becomes a ghost, even to its own creators. So, the aircraft wasn't actually malfunctioning by disappearing. It was performing exactly as it was engineered to perform. It was perfectly hidden.
Section 5. Appealing to the public. A low-tech solution.
And this flawless execution of stealth technology forced authorities into an unbelievable and honestly highly ironic position. The United States possesses the most advanced multi-billion-dollar military tracking infrastructure on the globe. We're talking about the North American Aerospace Defense Command, a sprawling network of high-altitude satellites, early warning sensor arrays, and ground-based radars designed to detect intercontinental ballistic missiles from across the planet. Yet, against this single, empty aircraft, that entire sophisticated arsenal was rendered completely blind and utterly useless. The military had essentially created a machine so perfectly evasive that the technology defeated the very institutions that funded, designed, and launched it.
The desperation of the search led to this astonishing, almost cinematic moment. Confronted with a total technological blackout, authorities essentially had to issue a public bulletin. They literally said, if you see this jet flying, please report it immediately. Just think about that for a second. The world's most powerful military superpower was forced to appeal to the civilian public for help. They were asking regular citizens, local farmers, folks just standing in their backyards, to walk outside, look up at the clouds, and use their bare, unassisted eyes to help track down a $100 million weapon of war. It stands as this ultimate collision of high-tech 21st century engineering and purely low-tech 19th century problem-solving. A highly classified asset being hunted by local residents just looking out their kitchen windows.
Section 6. The final crash. The ghost flight ends.
The saga of the unmanned stealth fighter finally did conclude, but it wasn't through some brilliant technological interception, a satellite ping, or a military escort. No, the flight ended through the absolute, unyielding laws of physics. Gravity and fuel consumption always went out in the end. The F-35 flew entirely unmanned, relying purely on its stabilizing autopilot software, and amazingly remained airborne and completely untracked over domestic soil for an astonishing amount of time. A full day after the pilot was forced to eject, the aircraft finally exhausted its fuel reserves. The jet plummeted into a rural, wooded area where the scattered wreckage was eventually located and secured by military recovery teams. That finally closed the loop on what was a deeply embarrassing and highly public operational failure.
This completely unprecedented incident leaves us with a profound, lingering question about the whole trajectory of modern defense. When military technology becomes so perfectly invisible and so highly automated that it essentially outsmarts the oversight of its own creators, had the systems gone too far? It really forces a serious geopolitical reevaluation of the unintended consequences of building untraceable, largely autonomous weapons of war. As AI and stealth capabilities continue to evolve together, the balance between technological supremacy and human control has honestly never been more fragile. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. For more comprehensive, documentary-style analysis of complex international affairs and the unseen forces shaping our world, be sure to subscribe to the Global Issues Daily. I'll see you in the next one.